Welcome to Fearfully Made Podcast. We're so glad you're joining us today. I am so excited about today. We actually have our first guest. Our friend Amiko is going to join us. She is amazing. She is a single mom of a child with ASD 2, and we are so glad to have her.
Welcome, Amiko.
Hey, girl.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey.
Good. We're so glad you're here today. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you both. And I know it's been like a long time coming. You guys have been talking about doing this, and like finally you guys found time and making it happen.
I love it. Awesome. Okay, let's get started. I just want to dive right in. So tell us a little bit about who you are and about your son.
So I'm Amiko. I have a 3.5-year-old son. He's amazing. I am currently getting my master's in education. What else can I say? My son uses an AAC device to communicate. So he's completely nonverbal. He has some vocal approximations, but we have to prompt him. He is currently at 2 schools. So he goes to like morning school and then after school while I am at work. And yeah, he loves to be at the park, all things outside, and go swim. Yeah, it's just been a blessing. He's such a blessing.
I love that. So let's talk about like, how did you discover that something was up with him?
Okay, so I guess probably he didn't meet his milestone of like sitting upright independently. And we have cousins who are close in age with him. So 2 girls that are, I think, maybe 6 months older than him. So I just like kept watching them meet milestones and see them progress and like get their first words. And like there was a big gap in like what he could do versus what they were doing. So like he was a little bit delayed sitting up. When I would call his name out, he like wouldn't respond to his name. He crawled he didn't crawl at all. He like did a funny leg scoot, which looking back could have been a sign. I'm not sure that it was super cute at the time, but he didn't have any like core motor like core strength to crawl on both hands and knees. And then just like was kind of, he had no language and just not really progressing and those milestones. Every time we went to the doctor and have to check him up, they were just like, yeah, he's kind of delayed, but we'll wait and see. We'll just keep waiting. So
how did you did your doctor help you, or did you come to the conclusion on your own? Like, I think we need a little more testing. He's not meeting these milestones. Like, how did you determine we got to do something? And how did you figure out what you were supposed to do?
I feel like my doctor kind of pushed it off a little bit. He was wanting to wait till he was like 3 years old. So about that like 1 year mark, I was just like, I need a referral. Like I just kind of told him, I was like, I know you want to wait, but this is like my mom instinct. I need you to send a referral to diagnosing providers so we can further that testing. And then I got the referral sent, and then we took him in. And then that's when we got his diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder level 2. So I don't feel like it was the doctor being like, oh yeah, let's check him out. It was more like something's going on. This is like, I wouldn't say abnormal because he's a gift from God, but I was just like, I need him to get the help that he needs so he can be successful in life.
Yeah.
And then the doctor was like really on board. So I just told him what I needed.
So whenever you had him tested, I know I hear this from a lot of parents that I go to my doctor and I need to get my kid tested, and the wait time of trying to find a place to have them tested, then getting them scheduled to get tested, and then actually getting tested is like this crazy. Sometimes I've heard like years. Parents will wait and wait and wait. How long was that for you? And was there anything that you did that like helped you to speed that process up?
Yeah, sure. So I had Googled areas in Tulsa that were diagnosing providers and kind of called around first to see what the wait list was. And then I would just call his pediatrician. I'd be like, this wait list is too long. I need you to send it to somewhere else. And then we finally did get on a wait list. And it was probably about 4 to 5 months until we actually got seen. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so it was, I mean, like half a year you were waiting to try to get him in there. Um,
Yes.
let's talk about you as a parent. So you take your kid, he is officially diagnosed with ASD2. How did you feel like coming out of that diagnosis, and were you relieved? Were you stressed? Like, what did that make you feel like?
I would say fearful. I don't feel like relieved was the right word or stressed because well, since he was born, I've always told him he's called, he's chosen, and he's infinitely loved. So I'm very like spiritual on that. And like I know Jesus has a plan for him and like he gave him to me for a reason. So but fear was the first thing. And then I remember being like, okay, so what now? What do I do from here? Like I knew this was coming, but like how hard is it going to be moving forward to get him to be independent in his life? Because if you read the little blurb they give you after you get your kids diagnosed, it's like requiring very substantial support. So it's just kind of like, where do we go from here? Yeah. So I was for sure fearful. And then I know I talked to you about it. I was just like ready to throw him in anything and everything. I was like, okay, let's go. Like, here we go. We're going to start this 4 or 5 times a week. He's going to be in speech. He's going to be in OT. We're going to go to therapy. Like, there's nothing that I didn't want him to have. So he had a fighting chance to be independent.
So
So,
I
let's
have
talk
a
about that.
question.
Go
yeah.
ahead.
When you were going in, did you do your own education or did you rely a lot on your pediatrician and the diagnostician to kind of give you a better understanding of why he wasn't meeting his milestones?
I did it off my own intuition. Like I would Google what should a 17-month-year-old be doing or 12-month-old, and like Google would have a sheet, and then they would send us home with sheets like by this time your child should be doing this.
Gotcha. Was there
Yes.
anything in particular that you were looking for as far as the diagnostician went? Because I know that there's so many in the industry. And I think a lot of parents, something that I've talked to Marissa about before, is like a lot of parents don't know what these diagnosticians may necessarily be. What is it? Like if they are, what types of assessments they're utilizing. So, like, that's the thing is like, did you trust the process of your diagnostician or did you have like second thoughts on how your son was assessed?
Second thoughts for sure.
Okay.
So they sent us home with the cars too, which is like or they did the cars. I'm not real sure. It's like the ADOS and the cars.
Yeah.
One was
Yes.
like an indirect assessment. So they sent us home with an indirect assessment. We filled that out. And then their direct assessment, since they didn't know him, I feel like he was more capable of doing stuff for his dad and I than they wrote down. So like they would ask him
Yes.
to do this, but he doesn't know the doctor. They're strangers. Why is he gonna take instruction or comply with someone he doesn't know?
Right. How long was the diagnostic testing?
It was about an hour.
So they only did an hour to run the full assessment of the ADOS with your son. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want parents to know that like it's not uncommon that that
Mhm.
happens when they go into an assessment. And
Absolutely.
I think like the hardest part is like, is this like medical? Is this having to do with like schedule variables? Is this because there's such an influx that they can't spend the appropriate time for a diagnosis? Like I had mentioned to you before, a friend of mine is going through her doctorate right now. And the way that she runs the assessment is a full week. So how do you go from seeing a child for an hour and immediately saying, okay, these are the deficits. This is what I found in an hour. I'm going to write a full report, when full doctorate students at major universities are taking 3 to 5 days to even make sure that what they're diagnosing is accurate.
Yeah. I would have loved for him to be in front of the doctor for a whole week so they could just get a better feel for his capabilities.
Right.
But it's so quick. And that's kind of, I guess, where the barrier lies is there here in Oklahoma, is there not enough doctors who are able to give the
Proper diagnosis.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, you just told us, like, it took you almost 6 months to get in for a 1-hour assessment, right?
Yes.
That is a huge issue. We just don't have enough. And I know, I have a lot of friends that work at different places around Tulsa and do these testings, and they have huge long lists of kids that are waiting. I mean, thousands of people in this area waiting to see what is going on with my child. And for a parent like you, your son's 3, it feels very long. I've been waiting for a long time. I've known that something was up with my kid. Things aren't setting right with me. I've had to push the doctor to do things. And now I have to wait 6 months to get my kid in, and you're only going to see them for an hour. That has to be like really frustrating for a parent, as far as like just needing support with your kid.
Oh, it is so frustrating. And then on top of that, I feel like some medical providers will have options to get the diagnoses or evaluated, and it's not from like a board certified MD or DO or psychiatrist, psychologist. So one of our first options was to go see a speech language path, but she took an 8-hour, actually, I don't know how many hours it is. She took like a side course to be able to diagnose someone. But when I'm thinking of a speech language pathologist, they went to school for speech, maybe audiology, something like that. How long was this course that you took to be able to diagnose my son or anybody else's child? So I was very stern on, like, I want to see like a psychologist for him. I want a well-rounded, somewhat like someone who has had the education and not just took like a side course for that.
That is definitely to be like commended, that you advocated for him and were like aware of, hey, that we're asking the question, like, how long did you take this course for? Like, because a lot of parents, they don't know, they're not educated. They just go in and are like, oh, okay, sure, here you go, Teresa. Here's my kid. You know what I mean? Like, and they don't know the questions to ask. So good job at like making sure that you were getting what you needed. What were you going to say, Kim?
I was going to say, Amiko, if you were to give parents advice today, discovering that their diagnosis for their child had just occurred, what would you recommend, like 2 major points for their search of a diagnostician? Or referral from a pediatrician to seek a diagnostician? What would be your advice?
I go by years they've been doing it.
Okay.
And having the criteria of like psychologist, or MD or DO, not just like a speech language or like a assistant to the doctor. I want the psychologist or doctor to have eyes on him and be running the report, asking the questions, doing the assessment. But then again, there's a flip side to that, because these children that need help and their parents need help, what if that's the only thing that's available for a year? Like, I wouldn't want to deter someone to the help they need just because they want to wait on someone more qualified.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. Let's go. Okay, so he's been diagnosed, and now you have to make a decision. And like you said, you and I had so many conversations of like, I just want him to get all the things, like all the therapies, anything that's available to him. But ultimately, you had to land on some decisions. So let's talk about that, because I find this super interesting. when your child is diagnosed, then, and I've talked about this before, like I get on the phone, right? And they're like, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do, and there's like so many options. And as a parent, for someone like you who actually has some background and can like navigate that, but how do I, if I have no clue, how do I like navigate that? So let's talk about what you ultimately decided to do. What was the very first intervention that you were like, okay, we're going to start here?
We started with speech and OT, and that was even before he got diagnosed.
Okay.
So we did speech and OT, and we did that intensively, like 2 times a week, hour sessions. And I think that kind of took off. Like, I feel like he was making some major strides in progress. And then the next step, like I said, now he is going to a public school with the ratio is really great. It's like 10 kids to 4 staff. And what I love about it is there's already a speech teacher in there. There's an occupational therapist in there. There's a paraprofessional. And then there's his main speech special education teacher.
I love that. Education has a lot of options. Let's go back though for just a second. Let's go to, I want to talk about speech because I think anybody who has a nonverbal child, that's a huge part. As a mom, like your heart's desire is to hear your child speak, right? Like, I just want to hear my kids say one thing. I don't even care if it's like cereal. Like, I don't care what the word is. I just want to hear it, right? So how did you choose which speech center? Because I mean, if you pull it up on Google, there's like 60, right? So how do I like navigate where to even start?
Okay, so this is a really great question. I have a friend who also has daughters on the spectrum, and this place came highly recommended. So, but if I was doing my own research, every therapy that you get, you have to go in and do like an initial assessment. So I would go off the vibes. Like, did they enjoy being around Isaiah? Did they love what they do? Like, you can tell if someone like is just there to get their paycheck, and you can tell if someone like, man, I really love this job. This is like the best thing. I'm helping kids. So I just kind of went off like the vibes I felt and like how Isaiah presented in the assessment too, like if he was having a good time or not.
One of my favorite things about you is Amiko is not afraid to fire anybody.
Yeah.
So,
she does not care who you
awesome.
are.
Yes.
So
you know exactly
let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about that because you when we were talking about speech and you were going through that process, you and I talked a lot, and there have been times where you're like, not that one. So how do you address that? If I go in and I feel the vibe, right? And my kid's like not liking it. They're not going to the speech path. They're not responding to anything she's saying or he's saying. Like, how do you address, I want somebody else, not this person, without just like completely leaving a clinic?
I'm too direct, so this isn't good feedback. I would just say I would like a new clinician. So I don't know. And I know that's super awkward for some people, but like we're talking about my child who cannot advocate for himself, and I am his voice of reason, and I know him through and through. I know him like the back of my hand. So if like I said, if the vibe is off, I'll kind of wait a little bit. Maybe there's just like a pairing session they need to do, or he didn't get enough sleep. There's a bunch of variables. But at the end of the day, if like 5 sessions into this, if you're not the vibe and my kid doesn't like seeing you, I'll just be like, hi, good morning. After this is going to be your last session with him, we're going to need to switch providers. Nothing against you. My son's not a fan, So yes.
How long were your speech sessions with him?
30 minutes speech and then 30 minutes of OT. So we did it back to back.
And it was once or twice a week?
Twice a week. So
twice a week. So a full hour.
Yeah. Well, right now we're doing Wait, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Amiko. Is that a limitation from the insurance provider, or is that what was suggested by his evaluation?
I believe that's a limitation from the insurance plan we're on,
Gotcha. Okay.
which is like
Would
another
you
big.
have asked for more like additional hours per week
Yes. Oh,
if it
100%.
was available? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting. I think
Yeah.
insurance is such a complicated topic, especially for things like this, like the limitations that it puts on parents and clients that like need the services, and like would an hour really be effective? And it seems like it was, I would say, right? Like, was your services effective? But like, what would have it been like if we had 2 hours a week or even 3 hours a week, seeing the speech pathologist Monday through Friday for 30 minutes? Like, what would that look like, you know?
Yeah.
But I
100.
do want to throw in there really fast, like it was effective, but there's a key component that makes Amiko extra special in this situation, as in she does the work that they're doing at therapy at home, right? So
Yeah.
like you're not just sending your son to therapy and letting him use his AAC device there and then stuffing it in his backpack until we go back to therapy next time, right?
Right. I do a for sure at minimum 15 minutes as soon as I walk through the door. We're like requesting for the things in my house because his social life is much different from a therapy life, right? Like there's his toys, but like he needs to learn how to ask for like sausage or frosted flakes or like I want this TV show, which he's not going to request for there. It's just toys and play based. So at the minimum 15 minutes every day learning
That's
how we're going
awesome.
to ask for stuff in his
Amika, were
house.
you afraid to ask for additional training from your speech pathologist? Because something that I've learned in my profession is a lot of the parents will come into parent meetings with me and be like, I don't talk to speech. They don't talk to me. And
Yeah.
like, what did you do as a parent to step in and say, okay, I need to know what's going on? And did they
I
give you that attention? Because I feel like sometimes it could be where they're so busy they can't give you that attention.
100%. I do like bi-weekly check-in. So like he'll
Great.
go and then I'm like, I want to go back. Like, let me actually see what you're working on. Because when they do hand off a child, they're like, oh yeah, he's done great. He did this and this and this. How do I know with my heart of hearts that you guys are actually doing what you're doing? You know what I'm saying? So like, I want to go back there. I want to teach me what you're doing so he can have the most successful life at home, not just in clinic.
So
I
you
think that's
initiated
great.
it.
Yeah.
Great. That's awesome.
That I will say that is the mistake I made with my own son. When he went to speech or OT, I had no idea what they were doing. Like, of course, I had my other child with me, but like I would sit in the lobby and they would take him to the back, and I had no idea. I was the parent that was like, I don't know. They don't talk to me. Like, they bring him out and they're like, he did this, this, and this. Oh, today he actually got on the swing. And I'm like, oh, yay, sweet. And then I go home. So the fact that you're initiating, and I think parents don't do that enough, maybe just because we don't even realize. I personally just didn't even realize that that was an option, right? That I could be like, hey, excuse me, I'd like to see what you're doing here. So I
Right.
think that's really great.
And I think that's a barrier, like as practitioners and clinicians, it needs parent involvement is key because the work doesn't stop after they walk out of the door. Like they need to live a successful life at home. So how do we get parents involved with their children at home? And just making the time, because I get at work from 8 to 5, then you get home, you cook dinner, you feed your kid, you just want like a moment to yourself, you throw on the TV, but those 15 minutes will make such a difference.
Oh, yes.
Like,
And it's consistent. It seems like you do it like it's always at the same time in this same place, and it's the same requests, but you don't know if those requests go into what we call like generalization on its own. And so there might be a day where he actually pulls it out of his backpack on you on the car ride home and is like, McDonald's.
yeah,
You know?
French fries.
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
where you never taught him that, but he's going to make that request and you're going to go, oh, okay, he's done this. He knows what he's doing with this device.
Yeah.
How long has he been using the device
now? I want to say 6 months.
Okay.
So,
and I want to talk about the device because you did something that we don't see parents do very often, right? So when your child, if you have a kid who is just starting out and they are nonverbal, there is a process through speech to get insurance to pay for an AAC and all that stuff. So let's go through that. First of all, did you wait for insurance to pay for the AAC device?
No, I did not.
Was there a reason that you didn't wait?
So we switched clinics halfway through the speech process. We're in a new clinic now, but the first speech was we were about to get into that and about to get into the process of ordering one, but I needed a way for him to communicate with me because I was sick of the pointing and the tantrums and taking up all the stuff. Do you want this one? Do you want this one? I needed a quick way that he could push a button. He could tell me, I want Frosted Flakes. I want sausage. So what I did was all speech programs are on an iPad. So I went and bought an iPad and downloaded the speech program of my choice onto the iPad. And it's not cost effective, like it is pricey. So like an iPad's what, $300, and then the apps are around $300, but you get to keep them, and it's a start.
Okay.
So that's how I got his first device.
Do you feel like once you got that device into his hands and you started the basic things of like sausage, Frosted Flakes, gummies, like whatever it is that he likes, Disney Channel, whatever it was you were using it, do you feel like that helped behaviorally, like as far as tantrums went and that whole power struggle between the two of you guys?
Oh, 100%, because he could communicate with me then. He could see the pictures and I could present it to him when he was in the kitchen. I'd be like, what do you want? Like, choose which one. And then he had a voice to be like, I want this one. Instead of me cooking something and him being like, I don't want that, I'm just going to throw a tantrum. It gave him his power back almost. What he was like searching for in the tantrums. He got a voice to be like, this is what I want. Make it for me now.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. What program
I love
did you start off with?
I started off with TD Snap.
Okay.
And I think it's a parent user-friendly app. Like, we all have iPhones. We can navigate to Safari, Google Chrome, Instagram, Facebook. It's that easy on TD Snap. There's just like a layout that's so simple about it. There's foods, TV shows, animals, and it's right there. So
that's awesome. And how long have you been on the waiting list for your device?
So we just got our other device. It took about 3 weeks. It didn't take that long.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And is it still an iPad or is it a specific device that's like, I don't know, Audio Vox or something like that, where it's like its own computer, own device where it has its own program and it's only strictly that speech and language program?
It's just an iPad with the app on it.
Yeah. Okay.
So did you decide to stick with TD Snap or did you go a different direction?
So with the new device, we went with LAMP, Words for Life. And because there's more literature on that with children who have ASD, and there's like a specific motor plan for it. And because his public school uses that, is what I've been told. And we have a meet the teacher on Tuesday, so we will see which one they prefer. But it's up to Isaiah. Like, if he's not vibing with this and he can communicate with me through the other one, I'm not changing it. Like, whatever he needs to successfully talk to me, that's what we're going with.
I love that. That's really cool that you have the opportunity to kind of give him a choice to figure out what works for him. Because as we grow and as we learn, like maybe you started with TD Snap, like you said, it's super user friendly. I'm a big fan of TD Snap. You can find things really quickly. It is very user friendly for the adult involved, but as they get older, you are correct. LAMP it's more intricate. I can use sentence structures and things like that and build my own. So as I learn and develop those skills, that might be what he prefers so that he can get more communication. Let's talk about so you did speech and OT and now he's in school. I really want to hit this. Might be a little controversial, but there's a lot of choices, right?
Yes.
There's ABA, there's school. How did you make the decision? I know a lot of parents, I have a lot of friends who have chosen to do ABA instead of school. You chose the other way, school rather than ABA. How did you navigate that? And what things made you feel comfortable to navigate that?
So we did we didn't do it. We did a couple tours at different ABA companies. And they were great. And I think highly of the ABA field. But ultimately, Isaiah was at home with me. I was really blessed and privileged to stay home with him for the first 2 years of his life. So I wanted more social aspect. Like he hasn't been around a bunch of kids at all. He has 2 cousins. He got direct one-on-one therapy from me and his Mimi at all times. He was always with an adult. Like he was around adults his whole growing up, which is, I wouldn't say uncommon, but that's not how a lot of kids are raised. So going into, do I want to do intensive ABA therapy where he's with an adult teaching them all day? Or do I want to throw him in a classroom with peers of 10 or more so he can like pick up on the imitation skills they have and see how they're playing and be kind of in a chaotic environment of like, toddler school. Either it's like fight or flight in there. You got to fit in, So I
Amiko, just to be honest with you, everybody in kindergarten through 2nd grade, they're all weird. Every single one of them.
I mean,
every single one of them.
When I
tell me why you can blow your nose, but you want to tell me about your baby mama and the drama that's going on at your house.
100%. So, and it's when I do walk in there, it's just chaos. So he's getting a great learning education. He's like, I mean, you can see the kids like fighting each other for toys. Just the other day, he grabbed a Sharpie and drew all over the walls. So I chose to keep him in the environment where he was going to benefit the most socially because he didn't get that growing up.
So let's talk about one of the hardest things for deciding ABA or school is the comfort level of the parent, right? At least in ABA, I know they're getting one-on-one. They're being recorded pretty much the whole time. I don't know a single clinic that doesn't record. I'm getting this go home sheet that tells me exactly when they went to the bathroom, what they did, what they ate, like I get this thorough communication when I send my kid to school. Sometimes I'm not getting that type of communication, right? ABA is a 1-to-1 ratio. School is like a 4-to-1 whenever you're doing a SPED class, right? What makes you feel comfortable and confident in sending him there and he can't communicate with you? He can't get in the car and be like, today I painted a picture and we went on the playground, right? He can't do those things. So what gives you like a peace of mind and confidence to know he's thriving here?
Because God is not going to fail my child. You know what I'm saying? He is covered. You know what I'm saying? He is covered in the blood of Jesus. And I just know that I have to let go of my wants. And like, I sent you an Instagram, I want my kid to talk. I want my kid to do this. What has God called my child to be? And what is he saying who he's going to be? And put my wants aside because I know that he is called, chosen, and infinitely loved. So my peace of mind comes from, I know that he's not going to fail me now. Like Isaiah's not taken care of just by me. I always say that I'm his earth mom, but the Lord has him. He created him and he knew every breath before this whole thing's been planned out, right? So that's been my big thing. Like he's just taken care of. I'm his earth mom right now. I just can't stress out about stuff at school. But it is a big stress. I'm sure I do some days. I'm like, what is going on in there? What if those kids are mean to him? You know, like what if his teacher, she acts like she likes him when I'm there for pickup and drop off and she's really mean to him. It does go through my head and it's super hard. But the vibe, he's happy to walk in independently. I'm not dragging him out of my car. He just walks in, bebops in, and like goes and sits his lunch pail down, you know? So that's a big telltale sign that he's safe, cared for, and loved over.
I love that. What, so he is in school, and whenever he is in a special ed class, right? So to be in there, he has to have an IEP. For a lot of parents, that's super confusing to navigate. And this is new for you. What did that look like for you, setting up an IEP and getting him started?
Yeah, super new for me, very new thing. So we called the school and we're like, hey, Isaiah's going to be 3 years old. We want him enrolled. And this is his like diagnoses from this place. So we forwarded that to them. And then they did an hour. Here we go with these hour evaluations to know my child. They did an hour evaluation on him, but it was like a team of people. So it was an intense thing. Like you walk in and there's like a huge table and we're talking like teachers, the head of special education, speech, OT, PT, and then there was a couple more. I couldn't even tell you. And then they just evaluated him for that hour. They did like indirect assessments on his dad and myself. So they asked us questions and then they went home, I guess, and wrote up his IEP. And then we came back for an IEP meeting.
So did you get to be there while they were doing the evaluation on him, or did they like take him back to another room and do it? Like, what did that look like?
Yes, I was there. I will be there for every evaluation. Yes, I am not a fan of sending my kid and telling him to figure it out.
Did you have to request that, or did that just naturally happen? Or were you like, yeah, I'm going to, man?
I'm going to. Yeah. Here we are. This is this is the last thing.
You know, an assertive parent.
Yeah.
You're an assertive parent.
Yes.
And so that just makes a total difference in regards to your knowledge, your experience, your education, and understanding of the types of services your son was getting.
Yes.
So this is going to be my message to all the parents. Be assertive. Like, go in there, ask those questions, be like Amiko in the sense of, I want to be a part of this journey with my kid, because it makes a whole lot of difference. You know, there will be days where it's going to be stressful, but it's going to pay off in this light where it becomes like almost like an acceptance and less stress.
You birth them, you have known them, you know their needs more than a stranger who has met them for the very first time. So even though, because I do sometimes, I find doctors intimidating. You know, they have the education, they spent their last 8 years, they know more than me for sure. But what they don't know is more about my child, you know, in a behavioral tantrum, language spoken thing, his preferences, what he likes to do, what he likes to eat. They have no idea. They're just going off what they have learned, and each child is so different. So
have you ever like met a doctor or a professional that was like, no, I know better than you?
I have not.
Okay.
And that's probably because I'm so assertive and I'm just like, this is what I want and need. This is not what I want and need. You're servicing my child. You see him once every 6 months, unless he's got an ear infection, flu, coronavirus. This is what I want and need. This is how I'm going to help get him to be independent.
That's amazing.
Did you start your journey here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or did you start it in a different location?
I started my journey of being a mom.
Yes.
I started my journey in San Diego, California.
Okay. And was the diagnosis done in San Diego, California?
No, it was done in Tulsa.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tell Marissa all the time that the demographics make a huge difference, and I don't even know why. Like, I
Yes.
think social economic class, and I'm sure we're going to get heat about this, but social economic class and like states matter. Like the
Yes.
differences between states and the cities that you are part of, and like where you're raising your kids makes such a huge difference in regards of their experience, their culture, the diversity, even the doctors that are there, right? And pediatricians that are there. It's just so different. So yeah, that I had to
No.
ask.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's talk about where you're going. So we have a diagnosis. Your son is about to start. This is going to be his second school year. Super exciting. Where do you see yourself going in the future as far as his capability, the services that you would like to see him get into? What does that look like for you?
I think we're at a place of content. So we're going to continue speech and OT while he goes to school, and just continue that because our plates are a lot right now. And I think he's thriving. I don't think there's any more that I can do as a parent to provide any more support. Like we're doing speech, OT, he's going to school, I'm working with him at night. So I think we just continue on this path. And then he gets reevaluated, I guess, every 6 months. They'll do the same tests that they did to get him diagnosed, just to see the improvements he's made. And I know that looks so different for everyone because the last telehealth visit I had with this doctor, she was asking about like, does he need medicine for anything, or like what behavioral aspects are you looking at that are just like uncontrollable? And right now I don't have any of those. So hopefully the next 6 month visit, we just see an increase of like communication, adaptive skills, and just like overall self-managing those big emotions, while we just do OT, speech, and school.
Do you feel like it's like a constant evaluation for yourself and for his dad and for him of like, are we in the right spot? Or do you like, is there a time limit on that? Or are you just constantly evaluating every day? Like,
Every day, every second, I wake up evaluating. It's hard. We are doing, any parent to a child on the spectrum is doing the hardest thing. So and I know I've called you and I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I'm doing it all, but is this working? Am I doing the right thing? Like, should I send him to this? Should I do this? Should I just let him have a summer break? Should I let him be a kid? Because if we talk about neurotypical kids, my nieces are just partying and up all summer long, summer break. They've gone to the pool, the water parks, and my kid has been in therapy all summer long. We have a strict routine. Therapy's Mondays and Tuesdays. We get home, we do more work, So for other neurotypical kids, it's like there's almost mom guilt in a
do you
sense.
feel like you have like FOMO? Like,
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, I feel very FOMO.
Can you elaborate on the mom guilt? Like what's the guilt coming or stemming from?
I am pushing my kid to be who I think maybe he should be. And
Yeah.
and I don't know if that is who he has been called to be. And it's one of my prayers, because just like Marissa said, I want to hear my kids say I love you, I want to hear my kids speak. But what if that is not how God designed them to be? And that's my internal one and not the Lord's plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's really deep.
It's
It is. I mean, it's very vulnerable, right? Like it takes a self-aware human being to like humble themselves and be like, okay, God, I trust you, even though this is not the expectation or the desire of how I thought my life would be. And I think regardless of whether your kid's on the spectrum or not, we do that in everyday life. We walk in that faith that is so unseen, and we have to trust the mystery of like who he is and what kind of sovereignty, almighty power that he has over our lives. And so for you to like claim that and say that even through your trials and tribulation and the storms you walk through, not just with your son, but just like you as a mother, is very bold, right? Like I totally believe that regardless of whether or not your desire is met, that you will trust God in all of the storms. So good for you.
Thank you. Yes, I really appreciate that.
Yeah. It's a
What
huge thing. Your faith is a huge thing. It's what keeps you going, you know, because you could
Yeah.
be in a very depressive state, especially with something like this.
Oh, easily. Yes.
what would you say is the most difficult part? You are a single mom. His
Mhm.
dad is in the picture, but you are a single mom all the time. So
All-
what would you say as a single mom with a kid on the spectrum who goes to school and is working full time? Like, what is the hardest thing to juggle, like, as you're doing this? What's the hardest part?
I just need like 5 or 6 more hours a day. Like, time management is the hardest. And I find myself wanting more time, and there's not enough time in a day. So that's the hardest part right now. It's just time. And I'm sure once I graduate in December, time will be freed up. But an aspect of the hardest part of being a single mom with a child with ASD, I need more time. Like, I need more time.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
balance everything. Now, okay, sorry, just to go back, because I
Mhm.
just have a few more questions about just how you've humbled yourself. Where is your son as far as like cognitive level of understanding? Like, you know, when they do the assessment for like the Vineland
Mhm.
or VV map, they typically tell you like the age range. Like, how old is he today and how old is he socially?
I'm gonna check my phone so I can get an accurate,
Yeah, no, take your time.
So that was very humbling actually when she told us that, because I was thinking he was way over what the age they told us. So as of January, so let's just say 6 months ago, his so I'm going to break it down in like the domains. Okay.
Okay,
So
yeah,
his social was at 14 months.
okay,
His self-help was 17 months. His gross motor capabilities were 23 months. Fine motor, he was at 2 years. Expressive language, 12 months. Language comprehension, under 12 months. And then the number or the age he is at right now is, or 6 months ago, 17 months old cognitively.
gotcha. And how old
Yeah.
is he today?
He will be 3.5 next month on the,
Okay,
yes.
yeah,
So
that makes
17.
sense. Okay, so
Yeah.
17 months would be a year
A year
and
and a half.
5 months. Yeah, a year and a half.
Yeah. Younger than his age.
Yes, yeah.
How does that affect as far as whenever you're at home and you're working on his communication? How does that affect your communication with him? So do you still directly say like, "Hey buddy, tell me exactly what you want," or are you like, do you like, how does it affect it? What does that look like?
I don't think I maybe have taken the time to realize that until this exact moment that he's processing stuff about a year and a half younger than he actually is. So I don't think I've changed anything at all. I speak to him like I speak to like a normal 3.5-year-old or someone that I work with. because imitation, right? He's going to pick up on all those cues, social cues. This is what he needs to be have in his life. I don't want him to regress any. I want like the age to keep progressing. So I feel like I haven't changed a thing. So I'll just talk to him how I would talk to, I guess, an adult kind of. Maybe I am a little bit hard on him now that I'm thinking about it, because like I said, my internal wants for him. But yeah, I haven't changed
They
a thing.
overpower, yeah. Something that I just learned, and it's crazy because I've been in the profession for as long as I have, is when I was guiding and mentoring a lot of the people that were underneath me, we, like Amiko, we go into our profession and go, okay, they're 3.5. Well, they should be functioning at a 3.5-year-old. And so we set the bar at 3.5, as opposed to taking a look at that assessment and going, okay, they have a cognitive understanding at 17 months. So what we need to be looking at is how do kids with 17-month cognition process information and go from there. So rather than looking at their, physical age, but looking at the assessment and saying, okay, at 17 months, they should be doing this, this, and this. At 18 months, they should be doing this, this, and this as far as social, cognition, self-help, all of those things. So then it helps with getting to those goals, and then eventually you'll catch up to those years because you're not creating this huge gap between 17 months and 3 years old, right? So I
Yeah.
think that was the education that's not being said necessarily to parents or even just professionals of, when you do this assessment, that's where you need to start. Not you do this assessment and you're like, I'm going to start right here on VB Map, level 1 AB.
Yes. I don't think I was kind of talking about this earlier, but yeah, I think that's a really good point because like you said, BB map, it's like 0 to 18, 18 to 24, 24 to 3. And we're like, okay, we want them to be where they are on their birthday age. And that's
Right.
not how it works. We're going to have to put like the building blocks, like, oh, okay, let's just say he's 17 months. How do we get him to be 22 months? And then once he's mastered those skills, then we're going to get him to be 24 months and then just keep moving up instead of placing that demand like he's 18 months old, we need to get him to 3 years old because that's how old he is.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Like when I was designing programs for kids at that cognitive level of understanding, I honestly only had functional communication and joint attention because there was such a lack of like eye contact or even acknowledgement of another person being there. And I'm like, you guys, that you keep giving the instruction, he or she is not paying attention to you. He doesn't even know that you're in the room.
Yes.
So you've got to figure out how to like play with them and like have him join in play and even acknowledge who you are, right? Like, so giving those specific instructions is not going to be effective if he has no idea that you exist.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Love it.
Anything else to add, Marissa?
No, I was just, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, we have now put him at 18 months, right? There's some things that are coming up. You were talking about your nieces. He has other people that he's imitating. What is the next skill that you want to work on at home? Like, is it speech? Is it potty training? Is he potty trained? Like, what is that next skill that you're like, we're really going to focus on this in our home?
Potty training. So I jumped the gun. He was potty trained at home, not bowel movements. I would take his diaper off and he would run to the bathroom when he needed to. So after 2 days, I was like, great, we're taking it to school, right? Like, he's going to go free ball. Like, don't put a diaper on him. He's got it. And then he actually regressed. So now he's potty trained to a diaper. And what that looks like is, if he's diaperless at home, he will not urinate like on the floor. Like, he knows not to have accidents. But when he needs to pee, he will press the diaper on his AAC device, go pee in the diaper, and then he'll put it in the trash can. So the next thing we're working on is potty training.
Right on. Are you nervous about that, or are you confident he's ready?
I'm not confident. I am winging this one 100% because I've been taught, like intervals, take them every 20 minutes to sit, make sure you provide praise, give them their highest reinforcement. But I feel like I potty train at work so much that I don't want to potty train my own kid because it's just like nonstop. I'm in the toilet or the restroom all the time. So it's just another one of those. I feel like it's almost a task for me right now. So I am terrified to get it going.
So you talked about like potty training at work.
Yeah.
In that clinic setting, right? We do use intervals, usually, like we'll check to see if you're dry every 5 minutes, we'll sit every 30 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kim and I talk a lot about like things that happen inside of a clinic or inside of a classroom that may or may not correlate into the real world. And I think you really hit the nail on the head for a lot of parents. I see this all the time. I have clients that are potty trained inside the clinic and the parents are like, I cannot get it. Do you have a strategy? He's potty trained to diaper. I think that's really cool, actually. Like he's actually acknowledging, right? That's like the first part. You got to acknowledge that it's happening. Do you have a strategy? Because that is very suppressive for families, right? Like if I have to base my entire evening, I have other kids or I have other things going on. If I have another kid and they have soccer practice, like how am I supposed to do 5:30s with this kid? Right? So what would be some advice or just maybe like the tactic that you're going in with that you could give to other parents of like, just because we're doing it this way in clinic or at school, it doesn't have to look that way at home?
I don't know because I'm not there yet.
Well, then we're going to have you back. I think we need to have a whole potty training.
I think so too. I know that in clinic we do 20 minutes sit no matter what. Like we're dry trucking 20 minutes. Just like you said, I get home and I've got to cook dinner. Timer goes off. I take him to the bathroom. Well, what happens if he has an accident in between there? Now I'm cleaning up an accident. The chicken on the stove is on fire. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole house is burning. So I need you guys to write me an intervention plan for this.
I don't know if we're gonna be doing that.
I need something.
I'm retired.
You are not retired.
I don't know. Like, what am I supposed to do? Tell him he can't have TV because that's his highest MO. And, and then when he gets sick of all his toys, like, oh, pee on the potty for TV. That's not it. So,
yeah, that's so hard.
I applaud parents that have potty trained their children because it's not me yet.
Well, we've talked, and I've talked with you, but I've talked on the podcast. It took me 1.5 years to potty train my son. 1.5 years, people. It took me 6 years to potty train him overnight. It's hard. And you were just talking about like his highest reinforcement. For people who don't know, reinforcement is like his highest preferred item, right? I literally took this kid. I like watched this thing on Dr. Oz, right? And it's like, just get your kid, take them to the store, let them buy their favorite toy, and they'll go pee in the potty. So I'm like, okay, I'm at my wit's end. I take this kid to the store. I'm like, you can have anything you want. He picks this like $70 truck, right? I put that thing on the back of the potty. That thing sat there for 6 months. He did not care. He was like, no. I was just like, Dr. Oz has failed me. It's so hard. Potty training all children. I don't care who they are. All children potty training is so difficult.
Years.
So
yeah, years.
It's hard. But yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back on once you have mastered this amazing thing and give us some advice, because it is not for the faint of heart.
No, it is not.
I love it. Go ahead, Kim.
I wanted to talk about the social aspect of your son at school, because I know you had mentioned that the reason why you took school over other therapies was because of the social skills. Have you found that in your research of additional services that there is a lack of social skills training or social skills groups outside of school. So like, you know, your son's going to mature and get to an age of like 6, 7, 8, whatever, those grade school levels. And Marissa says this all the time. She's so thankful that her kids have great friends. I think like the worry is, and what I've learned now is that they get to those ages and kids are not forgiving, right? And they don't necessarily have the greatest bedside manner or an even understanding of like other kids on the spectrum. What I've learned in my history of being a professional in this field is there is no program that's specific to social skills. Like bringing in kids who really need to understand like emotions, how to deal with those emotions, how to respond to other people having emotions. So like being selfless and selfish. So I was wondering, like, have you found anything or have you even started researching on just like social skill programs or what you guys would take a look at once he gets older, just like the future of where he would be once he started kindergarten and first grade?
I have not at all. I agree, though. Kids are ruthless. And
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yes.
Yeah. And
very honest human beings.
Yes, they are, you know, and that's another fear is what if my kid's like the weird kid, or what if this or that? So I haven't researched anything or thought about that far yet. I just know that my main goal is he has 3 cousins. So beyond like if he doesn't have friends at school, family's always first. So as long as he can share and care with them and be a good human to other kids in class, that will, everything else will fall into place because it just has to.
So what you're saying, Amiko, is that you're going to start a social skills program in your house with your cousins.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
She has the material already written.
Yeah, you do. I'm sure you do. Yes, material is online. It's just a matter of investment on it.
Yeah. I'm gonna.
And you hit on this. You hit on this in the beginning of the podcast whenever you were talking about school. The beauty of school, and Amiko and I, our journey is very similar. I didn't choose ABA for my son either, mostly just because it really wasn't available like it is now. But the beauty of school is that you have speech, OT, and all those things also available at school. So my story is that insurance ended up cutting us from speech, even though he desperately needed it and took it until 4th grade. But Amiko has the beautiful aspect of she can also do private speech, but she also has that aspect at school. So when you are in school, that speech path does have the ability to help that student develop social interactions with their classmates, right? So that is another plus side of choosing school. And it is hard. I mean, I say now, Kim, you brought this up. I love my kids have beautiful friendships that I value very deeply. But literally not until the 5th grade did I even realize that my son had friends, because I would be like, hey, what's that kid's name? And he'd be like, I don't know. Right. I'm like, you've sat by them for 4 years and you don't know that kid's name. It wasn't important to him, right? Like he just like, that's not something that he stores inside of his brain. And it was something he struggled with. But in the 5th grade, when he was in graduation and I'm like, he's dreading this, we can't do this, blah, blah, blah. They call his name and the whole 5th grade class stands up and starts cheering for him. It was in that moment that I realized, oh, people actually like my kid and they see him. So it's a struggle, because before that, I'm like, he doesn't go to birthday parties. He doesn't do things, you know what I mean? I think for a parent of a child with learning differences, that's always a struggle. That's always something that like we worry about. But Amiko's so right. Like our family what I care about, what Amiko cares about, what most parents care about is my kid a good person? Are they a kind person? Do they know how to be loving to other people? Do they know how to show compassion? Do they have those skills, right? And I can cultivate those in my home and control the environment in my home to help support my kid as they begin to develop these skills. And honestly, if my kid gets to 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, and they still are struggling with friends, I still have that ability within my family. And I think that's God's gift to special needs families, to everybody, but especially for special needs families, the gift of family, people who are there unconditionally that love you and support you. He has given those people to you as a gift. And if we can really tap into that, the people who love us the most, you can develop those things in the areas that you feel like maybe are lacking here or there. Right. Amiko, we're so glad you came on with us. We are definitely going to have you on again. This was so much fun. We are wishing you guys the best. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we hope you enjoyed Amiko's story. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great week, guys.